All right, guys, really excited for this lesson. We're gonna help you get a grip on your messaging, and I'm gonna show you two of my favorite, most helpful resources for getting your messaging down. Now, have you ever, been frustrated because you know that like your product or service is really valuable, but you explained it to someone and they just didn't get it, or they just, they needed it but they didn't buy? This has probably happened to all of you, right? And the only reason that if someone actually needs something and they don't buy or they don't see the value is it's only because of your communication and how you're articulating and explaining it, right? So it's really important to get good at your messaging and to understand like what actually matters to your target market. And sometimes this can be hard. It can take a couple goes because we see our product or service from a different perspective than our customer does, right? We see all the things that are really cool about it, all the specifics, but most customers don't care about that. They just care about how it helps them, right? How it helps them go from A to B, right? So we really need to get in the customer's mindset, and we have to have that come through in our messaging. So I'm going to show you now two resources that can help you actually get clear on your messaging. So the first document is called Messaging Mastery. This will really help you get clear on like how to articulate your value and what actually matters to your target audience. Now, just to be clear, what we're not doing here is writing out like an email that's going to go out to a prospect. This is actually just one document that you create once, and you just list out a couple different frameworks, and you practice explaining your offer and your business in a few different ways. And again, this is not to be used in your marketing. This is just for you to actually get clear yourself, and also to have something to refer to as inspiration if you ever get stuck while writing. Keep in mind that different markets and different personas need different messaging, so you shouldn't just have one way of explaining your offer to everybody in the world. So there's three different frameworks, and you're just going to fill these out. It's really more of a brainstorming exercise and just have this document to refer to in the future. The first one is your general business value proposition, and this is kind of how you just explain your business as a whole. It's something that could also really translate well to like your website copy. So the framework, as you see in the document, is for, and you would insert your target market, who need blank, your brand name provides a main benefit that differentiates you, because, so that last bit is just to explain like why you do what you do or why your target market should believe you that you can do it well. So here's an example that would work for our business. For small to mid-sized B2B service businesses who need to find ways to improve their sales and marketing processes to grow profitably, Revenue Boost provides results-focused sales coaching and consulting because we do whatever it takes to help our clients succeed. So that's an example of it in action. Obviously, that's a mouthful. You wouldn't say that in a conversation, but this is just to kind of help you like first understand what the value is your offer. Because if you don't understand it, how are you going to help someone else understand it, right? Cool, so the next section is short elevator pitches. These would be really useful, really versatile as well, that you can use in a lot of your marketing. So again, you want to just kind of list out a bunch here. There's no like quota, there's no right or wrong answer. You're just trying to list out a bunch of these statements. And again, this would be really helpful when you're actually writing messages to people later, because you can kind of refer back to this. So one example is, I help, insert your target market, achieve main benefit without problem or challenge. At my company, Revenue Boost, the marketing methods we teach people don't actually cost a lot. So an example of how that one would look for me is, I help small to mid-sized companies increase their flow of qualified leads without high marketing expenses. So you see, you're just putting like a challenge or an objection at the end. Next one would be, I help, insert your target market, achieve main benefit so that they can desired outcome. So for example, I help small to mid-sized companies increase their flow of qualified leads so that they can grow their revenue consistently. So it's the benefit, and then ultimately, how does that benefit translate into an outcome or a result? Because that's what we want to be talking about. Another framework would be, I help target market achieve benefit within time frame. So for example, I help small to mid-sized companies grow their revenues within 3 to 6 months. If you can add some kind of time element into what you do, then that makes it really appealing, because people can visualize like the results they'll get. But if it doesn't fit into what you're selling, then don't worry about it. And then another framework would be, I help, insert your target market, achieve, insert the benefit, through, and then explain like your product or service or your unique process if you have some kind of name for it. So that's it. And then also you can actually, combine any of these. So again, this is really just an exercise to list out a bunch of these, combine them if you want, add your own creative spin, but ultimately list out as many as you can. And this will help you get clear on the value that you offer so that you can explain it well to someone else. Now, the last framework on this document would be the introduction statement. This would actually work really well if you were talking to someone. You meet someone at an event and they ask what you do, or someone asks you online like, hey, what do you do? So you want to have a really good like scripted way of kind of explaining what you do. So the framework is, do you know how a lot of, insert your niche, nowadays are experiencing, insert the problem you solve, and it causes, insert the consequence, like what that problem leads to? Well, I help people like that insert the solution that you do so that they can experience and start to benefit. So an example for my business Revenue Boost would be, do you know how a lot of people nowadays are using paid ads to generate leads, which leads to a really high customer acquisition cost and very low profit margins? Well, I help people like that leverage outbound marketing strategies so that they can get higher quality leads that cost less, and they can use those extra profits to grow faster and reinvest. That would be an example of my business. Now, do you see how that's a lot better than just saying like, oh, I have a marketing company, or oh, I do consulting, right? When you say that, it just doesn't really matter to someone. It's not very appealing, and it also doesn't stand out. So again, we want to always be talking about the problems and the results in our messaging. That's it for the exercises. Go and take some time now to fill this out. Don't worry if this takes you an hour. If this is the first time that you've really thought through your messaging and the value that you offer from a customer's perspective, then it might take some time. But have some fun with it, brainstorm. Don't worry about getting it perfect. You can always come back and refine this later. And let's get to it. Cool, so once you've done that resource, now we're gonna dive into the Flavors of Pain resource. And the point of this document is to help you understand really the problems you solve and what those problems mean to your target customer. We've talked a little bit about this already, but sales is all about solving problems. People only buy something to solve a problem. Even if someone's buying like a luxury good, they're still solving the problem of like not having that and the feeling that comes with it, right? So no matter what you sell, it solves some kind of problem, and you have to know what that problem actually is and how to explain it. Talking about problems will be more beneficial than talking about features or benefits any day. So use this document to understand the different types of problems that your target market has, because they probably have a bunch. And ultimately, this is the prep work that makes your copywriting, your content, all of your marketing way more effective. And like we talked about earlier, people only buy something to go from A to B. So them being stuck at A, stuck at where they are now, their current situation, that is the problem that you're solving for them, right? To help them get to their desired state. So basically how you use this document is you just go down the list to each of the different frameworks and just list out as many problems that come to mind. And again, just think about past customers if you're getting stuck. So the reason we call it different flavors of pain, because there's different types of pain or different types of problems that someone might experience. Maybe you only sell one thing, but a lot of people could be buying your service for a lot of different reasons to solve different problems. So it's really important to understand that. The first one is time frame. So there's different time frames to a problem someone has. For example, there's either a present pain or a future pain. Someone might be buying something because they want to solve a problem now in their business or their life, or they might be buying something to solve a future pain. Maybe they want to avoid a risk. Why do people buy insurance, right? It doesn't really matter now that they need insurance, but it's in case of a future problem occurring. So there could be either present pains or there could be future pains, or there could be both. Maybe what you sell solves the current problem for someone, but it also prevents a bigger problem from happening in the future. So again, just list out some examples of current pains someone might have, and then it lists out examples of future problems or risks that someone might want to avoid that your product or service helps them with. So as an example, our business helps other businesses get more customers. So a present pain would be, oh, I don't have as many customers as I like. My business revenues aren't where I want them to be. Because of that, I'm not earning much and I work too hard and I can't afford the staff to help me free up my time. That would be a current problem. Now, an example of a future problem would be, if this continues, I'll be overworked, stressed. I may have to get loans or credit to keep my business going. And worst case scenario, I could go out of business to my competitors. So that's an example of how you can take a current problem and then magnify it for the future. Now, the next framework is a related pain. So take a problem and then just think what are some related problems that might cause if it doesn't go solved. So an example for our business, Revenue Boost, would be, I don't have enough customers and revenues. Related pains could be, profits are low, I'm earning less than I would at my job, I'm not earning enough to live my preferred lifestyle, or I feel frustrated because I see a lot of customers going to competitors. So just specific things that surround the core problem that you solve. Now the next framework would be a totally different pain. So again, like we talked about before, a lot of people might buy your product or service for different reasons to solve different things. So try to think of the main core problems that your offer solves. So an alternative pain would be a different problem to the core problem, which also isn't good. So something indirect. For example, if I take the generic problem that my business Revenue Boost solves, it's I don't have enough customers or revenues. But some alternative problems to that, some indirect problems that would also get solved if they solve that would be, I need to hire staff, right? I need more money in my business to hire more staff. Or I'm losing market share to my competitors. Or I have to spend so much of my time on marketing, which isn't what I'm good at, and I can't afford to hire someone for it. Or even at a personal level, because my business isn't growing, I feel like a loser compared to my peers who are doing way better than me. So you can also think about problems not just at a business level, but how it affects that person personally in their mindset. Now the last framework I'll show you is 3 levels of pain. So you can really take a problem and expand it to really, put a magnifying glass on it. So what you want to do here is you want to take a problem and then just ask yourself, like, what happens because of that? What does that problem lead to, right? So a lot of times when we think of, the problem that our business solves for other people, we think just at the surface level. So this exercise will help get you really deeper and much past the surface. So a level 1 pain would be what the problem appears to be at a surface level. A level 2 pain would be like the consequence of that problem. If that problem gets a lot worse, how is that going to show up in their life or their business? And then the level 3 pain would be like the absolute worst case scenario. If they didn't solve that problem, what's the worst thing that could happen? And also think like, how would they make them feel? What would be the emotions if they couldn't solve that problem and if the worst case scenario happened? So let's take an example of the problem of somebody not having enough customers in their business. The surface level pain, which is what most marketers talk about, would be, I don't have enough customers, I don't have enough sales. Now, of course, you can talk about that in your marketing, but you're going to sound like everyone else. So going to level 2 and level 3 will help you stand out more and really hit home with your messaging. A level 2 problem would be, because of that, I'm worried about meeting my revenue and my profit goals for the year. Now it's a little bit better, a little bit more specific, but we can even do better. A level 3 pain would be, if my business doesn't survive, how will I pay my bills? Will I have to go back to that crappy job? What will my family and peers think of me? What will I think of me? So see how we're getting really down to the worst case scenario and like what's going on in their head? If you can talk about that stuff in your marketing, you're in great shape. Now let's take an example for another business. Let's say, it's a web design business and we're selling web design services to like a marketing director, so not the owner of the business. The level 1 pain would be, I don't have enough conversions on my website. Going a little bit deeper, because of that, level 2 pain would be, our ad costs are super high and my marketing budget isn't getting a great ROI and I'm not hitting my KPIs and my boss is really on my back. Now, see if we talk about that stuff, it's a lot more specific to someone's day-to-day life. And then the level 3 pain, the worst case scenario for that person, the marketing director here, could be, I'm worried about not getting promoted, but also maybe losing my job and having to go start at square one. Cool, so that's a wrap. Go through all these frameworks, list out all the problems that you solve for your potential customers, list out how those problems affect them, and go through every single one of the 4 frameworks. Just write as much as you can, brainstorm it, have fun with it, and really take your time because this is going to help you so much later down the line. And I'll see you in the next lesson.